I opened my eyes that Thanksgiving morning, and something felt wrong. Deeply, viscerally wrong. The house was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence you enjoy on a lazy Sunday morning. This was the kind of silence that crawls under your skin and makes your heart beat just a little faster. The Anderson family home, our sprawling 6-bedroom house in the suburbs, was never silent on Thanksgiving. Never. My name is Natalie Anderson, and I'm 26 years old. For the past 7 years, I've been the invisible backbone of my family. But on that cold November morning, lying in my bed at 9 o'clock, I had no idea that everything I thought I knew about my family was about to shatter into a million pieces. Let me paint you a picture of what Thanksgiving morning should have sounded like. My mother, Victoria, should have been downstairs already, moving through the kitchen like a general commanding an army. The smell of turkey roasting, the clatter of pots and pans, the sound of the timer beeping, these were the soundtrack of every holiday. My father, Richard, would be planted in his leather recliner, the Macy's parade blaring so loud you could hear it from every room in the house. And my siblings? Mason, 29, and Harper, 23, would be arguing over who got to shower first, their voices echoing through the hallways. But that morning, nothing. Just the low hum of the heating system and the sound of my own breathing. I sat up slowly, pushing my tangled hair out of my face. My heart was already starting to race, though I couldn't explain why. It was just quiet, right? Maybe everyone was sleeping in. Maybe Mom decided to start the turkey later this year. Maybe Dad was watching the parade with the volume down for once. But deep down, I knew. Something was very, very wrong. Hello? I called out, my voice sounding strange in the stillness. It echoed back to me, unanswered. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my fingers fumbling slightly. The screen lit up, 9:07 a.m., no messages. No missed calls. No notifications at all. The wrongness of this morning pressed down on me like a physical weight. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, my bare feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. The chill shot up through my body, waking me up fully. I stood and walked to my bedroom door, every step feeling heavier than the last. Mom? Dad? I called louder this time, opening my door and stepping into the hallway. The doors to Mason's and Harper's rooms stood wide open. I walked to Mason's room first, my heart pounding harder with each step. His bed was made, hastily, corners not tucked in properly, but it didn't look slept in at all. The pillows were still perfectly fluffed, the comforter smooth except where he'd obviously pulled it up quickly. Harper's room was the same. Bed made, but clearly not used. Her makeup and straightening iron were gone from her vanity, things she'd never leave behind even for a day trip. My hands started to shake slightly as I made my way downstairs, gripping the banister for support. Each step creaked under my weight, the sound abnormally loud in the silent house. The kitchen hit me like a punch to the gut. It was spotless, pristine. The counters were clear. No turkey thawing in the sink, no ingredients lined up for stuffing, no pie crusts waiting to be filled. Just my coffee mug from the night before, sitting alone in the otherwise empty sink like a monument to my isolation. I walked slowly through the kitchen, my footsteps echoing on the tile floor. I opened the refrigerator, knowing what I'd find but needing to see it anyway. Normal everyday items, no turkey. No cranberry sauce ingredients, no whipped cream for pies. Nothing that suggested a holiday feast was being prepared. My chest felt tight as I walked to the front window, my legs moving on autopilot. I pulled back the curtain with trembling fingers, and there it was, the confirmation of my worst fear. The driveway was completely empty. My parents' black sedan, gone. Mason's beat-up Jeep that he loved more than anything, gone. Even the massive 8-seater SUV that I had personally filled with gas just 2 days ago, preparing for our drive to Uncle Mitchell's house, gone. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the empty concrete driveway, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe they ran out to get something. Maybe there was a last-minute emergency. Maybe, no. The house didn't feel like people had just stepped out. It felt abandoned. It felt cold. It felt like I'd been deliberately left behind. I grabbed my phone again, my fingers shaking as I pulled up my contacts. I scrolled to Mom, nothing. The contact was gone. I scrolled to Dad, also gone. Panicking now, I scrolled faster, Mason, Harper, even my youngest brother Tyler, who was 20 and still in college. Every single contact was deleted. "What the hell?" I whispered, my voice cracking. And then I remembered something. A small moment from the night before that, I'd dismissed as nothing. Tyler had borrowed my phone. "Hey Nat, can I check something real quick?" My phone died. Those were his exact words. I'd handed it over without thinking twice. Of course I did, he's my little brother. Why would I suspect anything? But Tyler wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He was smart enough to delete my contacts, but not smart enough to think about what he couldn't delete. Call history. And more importantly, I knew most of their numbers by heart anyway. 7 years of being the family organizer, the one who handled everything, meant I'd memorized every important number. But there was one number I knew for absolute certain. Uncle Mitchell's. I punched in the digits with shaking fingers, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, he picked up. "Hello?" His voice was relaxed, happy, the voice of someone having a good time. "Uncle Mitchell." "It's Natalie. Where is everyone?" There was a pause. A long, horrible pause that made my stomach drop like I was on a roller coaster. "Natalie?" He sounded genuinely surprised. "Oh, you're still at home?" The way he said it, like it was a mistake that I was there, like I was an unexpected problem, made something inside me crack. "Where are you?" I asked, though I already knew. I already knew before I heard the sound in the background, the unmistakable crash of ocean waves, the distant tinkling melody of a ukulele, the faint laughter of people enjoying themselves in paradise. "Uncle Mitchell," I said slowly, my voice deadly calm. "Where are you?" "Ah." He cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Well, your parents wanted to do something special for their 30th anniversary. Everyone flew out to Maui last night. It was meant to be a surprise for them, you know, all the kids pitching in to—" "All the kids?" I interrupted, my voice rising despite myself. "All the kids are there?" "Yes, well," he was clearly uncomfortable now. "They thought you were too busy with work. And, well, they didn't want you to worry about the expense. You know how you are about money, always so practical, and the expense." He said, "the expense." The expense of a vacation they were taking with money I'd been funneling into this house for 7 years. 7 years of paying their mortgage. 7 years of covering their bills. 7 years of being the invisible bank account that kept their comfortable lifestyle afloat. Before I could respond, I heard a voice in the background. Harper's voice, sharp and annoyed. "God, are you talking to her?" I thought the whole point was just letting her stay home. "Why are you making it weird?" Uncle Mitchell made a shushing sound, but it was too late. I'd heard everything I needed to hear. "Natalie, listen." He started. I ended the call. My hand was shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I stood there in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd cooked hundreds of meals. The same kitchen where I'd sat with my mother going over bills. The same kitchen where I'd laughed with my siblings over late-night snacks. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was planned, orchestrated, deliberate. They had deleted my contacts so I couldn't easily call them. They had snuck out in the middle of the night so I wouldn't hear them leave. They had gone to Hawaii for a luxury vacation, and they hadn't wanted me there. I walked slowly to the refrigerator where the family calendar hung. There, in my own neat handwriting, was today's date circled in red. Thanksgiving at Uncle Mitchell's. Below it, a list of tasks I'd completed to prepare. Clean guest bathroom. Gas up SUV, pick up wine. Buy ingredients for my famous sweet potato casserole. I'd done everything. Everything to prepare for a family gathering I was never meant to attend. I waited for the tears to come. I waited for the crushing weight of betrayal to bring me to my knees. I waited for the anger, the screaming, the throwing things, but none of it came. Instead, something else happened. Something cold and crystalline and absolutely final. Every moment of the last 7 years suddenly snapped into perfect, painful focus. Every check I'd written, every sacrifice I'd made, every time I'd said yes when I should have said no. Every time I'd been told I was the responsible one while my siblings took and took and took, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I just stood there in that silent, empty kitchen and felt something inside me click into place. A decision, a resolution, A line drawn in the sand that could never be uncrossed. I was done. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you how Natalie Anderson became the family ATM, the invisible pillar, the responsible one who everyone relied on but no one actually valued. I was 19 when I moved back home. Just finished my associate's degree at community college, full of optimism and plans for the future. I was going to take a year to save money, then transfer to a 4-year university. I had dreams. I had goals. I had a whole life planned out ahead of me. Then my father sat me down in this very kitchen and explained the situation. "Sweetheart," he'd said, his voice heavy with practiced concern, "I need to talk to you about something important. Man to man. Well, man to woman." He'd chuckled at his own joke, but I could see the worry lines on his face. He'd been demoted at work. The company was downsizing, and his position was being eliminated. They'd offered him a junior role with a significant pay cut or severance. He took the junior role because he needed the insurance for the family. "The mortgage payments are going to be tight for a while," my mother had added, appearing in the doorway with that specific expression she wore when she needed something from me. The one that made me feel guilty before I even knew what she was asking for. "Just until your father gets back on his feet. Just temporarily." 7 years later, temporarily was still ongoing. I pulled out my phone now, standing in that empty kitchen, and opened my calculator app. My fingers moved with methodical precision as I punched in the numbers I'd been avoiding calculating for years. The total mortgage payment, $3,000 a month. My contribution, $2,200 every single month. Their contribution, $800. I did the math. 7 years, 84 months, $2,200. Multiplied by 84, $184,800. Almost $200,000. Gone. Not invested in my own future. Not saved for my own dreams. Not used to build my own life. Used to subsidize theirs. But it wasn't just the mortgage. Oh no. The mortgage was just the beginning of my financial servitude to the Anderson family. Let me tell you about Mason, my 29-year-old brother, the entrepreneur. 3 years ago, he came to the family with a brilliant idea, an app that would revolutionize how people find local handymen. He needed seed funding. He needed $55,000. My parents somehow found that $55,000 for him. This was while I was writing checks for property taxes and emergency roof repairs. This was while I was being told we needed to tighten our belts and be responsible with money. Mason's app lasted 8 months before it crashed and burned. The money evaporated like morning fog. And did Mason get a job afterwards? Of course not. He moved back into his childhood bedroom, rent-free, to regroup and find his passion. That was 3 years ago. He's still regrouping. Then there's Harper, 23 years old, attending Westlake University, one of the most expensive private colleges in the state. Tuition? $42,000 a year, plus room and board, plus sorority dues, plus her car payment, plus her shopping habits. When I was her age, I was working 2 part-time jobs while attending community college. I was studying between customers at the coffee shop and doing homework in my car between shifts. I ate ramen noodles and rice and whatever was on sale. Harper posts. Instagram photos from expensive restaurants. 3 times a week I'd asked once, just once, why Harper couldn't work part-time to help cover some of her expenses. My mother had looked at me like I'd suggested Harper walk on hot coals. Your sister needs to focus on her studies. These are important years. She needs to build her resume with internships and sorority leadership positions. Not waste time working at some minimum wage job. The irony was completely lost on her and Tyler, 20 years old, the baby of the family, the one everyone protected and coddled. In his 2nd year at State University, also living on campus, also having every expense covered without question. Meanwhile, I lived in the smallest bedroom in the house, the one with the water stain on the ceiling that never got fixed, the one where the heating vent didn't quite reach, the one that everyone else had rejected. I stood in that kitchen now, 7 years of resentment and clarity washing over me like a cold wave, and I finally let myself see the truth I'd been avoiding. I wasn't a family member. I was a resource. I was an ATM machine that occasionally needed emotional validation to keep dispensing cash. Every family dinner where I was thanked for being so responsible. Every Christmas where I got practical gifts like socks and kitchen utensils, while my siblings got expensive electronics and designer clothes. Every birthday where the celebration was small and simple, because you understand we're watching expenses right now, right, Natalie? The responsible one, the practical one, the one we can always count on. Translation: the one we can use without guilt. I walked through the empty house now, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors I'd paid to have refinished 2 years ago. I ran my finger along the banister I'd paid to have repaired. I looked at the walls I'd paid to have painted. Every corner of this house held my money, my sacrifice, my stolen future. In the living room, I stopped in front of the family photo wall. Dozens of pictures in matching frames, frames I'd bought. Thanksgiving dinners I'd cooked. Christmas mornings I'd funded. Vacation photos from trips I hadn't been invited on. Wait, I looked closer at the photos. There was last year's Christmas in front of a massive decorated tree. There was Easter 2 years ago, everyone dressed in spring pastels. There was a beach photo I'd never seen before. Everyone in Hawaiian shirts and leis, palm trees in the background, golden sunset lighting. When was this taken? I searched my memory. When had they gone to Hawaii before? Then I saw the date stamp on the back of the frame when I picked it up. 2 years ago. They'd gone to Hawaii 2 years ago, and I hadn't known about it. How had I not known? I'd been living here. I'd been paying the bills. How had they hidden an entire Hawaiian vacation from me? And then I remembered. 2 years ago, they'd told me they were going to visit my grandmother in Florida for a week. They'd said she wasn't doing well and wanted to see everyone. They'd said I should stay home because someone needs to watch the house, and Grandma gets overwhelmed with too many people at once. I'd stayed home for a week, alone, still transferring my $2,200 into the mortgage account, still paying the utilities, still being responsible. They'd lied to me. They'd gone to Hawaii while telling me they were at my grandmother's deathbed. The photo frame slipped from my hands and shattered on the hardwood floor. Glass scattered across the wood like diamonds, the happy Hawaiian photo staring up at me from the wreckage. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't fall apart. I just stood there, looking down at the broken glass, and felt the last piece of loyalty, the last thread of familial obligation, snap inside me. They didn't just leave me behind this Thanksgiving. They'd been leaving me behind for years. I'd just been too busy being responsible to notice. I didn't throw things. I didn't have a breakdown. Those reactions would give them power, would confirm their whispered assessments that I was too emotional or couldn't take a joke. Instead, I walked calmly to my bedroom, the smallest, coldest room with the water-stained ceiling, and pulled open the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Inside was a 3-inch binder. Navy blue, heavy, organized with color-coded tabs and plastic sheet protectors, 7 years of documentation, 7 years of receipts, 7 years of bank statements, 7 years of warranties, invoices, and proof of purchase for every single item I'd bought for this house. I was an accountant by profession. Organization wasn't just a habit, it was my nature. Every purchase over $50 got filed. Every major expense got documented. I told myself it was for tax purposes, for insurance claims, for practical reasons. But now, holding this binder, I realized some part of me had always known. Some part of me had been preparing for this exact moment. I carried the binder to the kitchen table and opened my laptop. But I didn't book a flight to Maui. I didn't compose an angry email. I didn't even check social media to see if they'd posted their vacation photos yet. I searched moving companies, immediate availability, holiday service. Most companies were closed for the Thanksgiving weekend. Family time, the website said. Spending the holiday with loved ones. The irony wasn't lost on me, but one company advertised premium holiday emergency moving services. Their rates were triple the normal price. I dialed the number. A man answered on the second ring. Swift Move Services. This is Derek speaking. Hi, Derek. I need to move out of my current residence. Tomorrow morning, if possible. There was a brief pause. Tomorrow? That's Black Friday, ma'am. Our holiday rates are, I don't care about the rates. Can you do it? Another pause. I could hear him typing. We can have a crew there at 8 a.m., but I should warn you, we're talking about 3 times our normal pricing for a holiday emergency call. That's fine. I'll need a truck large enough for several major appliances. A washer, dryer, refrigerator, dishwasher, and a large television. More typing. We can handle that. May I ask what's prompting such an urgent move? I looked around the empty kitchen, at the house I'd been funding for 7 years, at the life I'd been quietly financing while being deliberately excluded from it. I've been responsible long enough, I said simply. Derek seemed to understand something in my tone. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll be there. I hung up and immediately opened another browser tab. Studio apartments. Within 30 minutes of my office. Available immediately, I found one. Expensive for immediate move-in, but I'd been so busy paying everyone else's expenses that I'd managed to save quite a bit. Turns out when you don't have a social life, don't go on vacations, and don't treat yourself to anything beyond basic necessities, money accumulates. I called the complex. Spoke to a property manager who was working through the holiday, made an appointment to sign the lease tomorrow afternoon. Put down the deposit, first month, last month, and security deposit, $3,700. Gone in a phone call, and yet I felt lighter than I had in years. Next, I opened a new spreadsheet. At the top, I typed, Property Inventory, Items Purchased by Natalie Anderson. Then I walked through the house, room by room, listing everything I'd bought. Living room, 85-inch television, purchased with my year-end bonus. $3,200, soundbar system. Streaming device, all the HDMI cables and wall-mount kitchen, 4-door smart refrigerator with ice maker. $2,800, high-efficiency dishwasher, $700, premium coffee maker that Mason and Harper used every single morning without ever buying coffee. $400, laundry room, front-loading washer and dryer set. Harper had complained that the old ones were disgusting and probably growing diseases. $2,400 for the pair, throughout the house, high-speed mesh Wi-Fi system. All 5 nodes, $450. The system that powered Mason's endless job searches, Harper's Instagram empire, and Tyler's online gaming marathons. I added item after item, each one accompanied by a receipt from my binder. Each one bearing my name on the purchase documentation. Each one paid for with my money, from my accounts, for a family that had just left me behind without a second thought. By the time I finished, my spreadsheet totaled over $15,000 in easily movable property. That didn't even count the mortgage payments, the utility bills, the property taxes, the home repairs. I saved the spreadsheet, backed it up to cloud storage, emailed it to myself, then I made another series of phone calls. Hello, yes, I need to cancel electrical service at 2847 Meadowbrook Drive. Account name, Natalie Anderson. The account holder, me, is moving out. The representative was professional, sympathetic even. I understand. When would you like service disconnected? Sunday evening, 5 p.m. That gives you through the weekend. And may I ask where we should send the final bill? I provided my new address, the studio apartment that would be mine and mine alone. I made the same call to the water company, then the gas company, then the internet service provider. Just to confirm, the internet provider said, "You're the account holder, Natalie Anderson, and you're requesting service termination on Sunday at 5 p.m.? Correct. And you understand this will disconnect service to the entire residence? I understand completely. Each representative asked if anyone else lived at the property. I answered honestly, yes, my family lives there. But the accounts are in my name. I'm the one who pays the bills. I'm the one who set up the service. And I'm moving out. No one questioned it. Why would they? My name, my accounts. My right to cancel. By 6 p.m., every utility was scheduled for disconnection. The house would have power, water, gas, and internet through the weekend. By Sunday evening, 2 days before my family returned from their Hawaiian paradise, everything would go dark. I made myself dinner that night. A simple meal from the mostly empty refrigerator. I ate at the kitchen table, the binder next to me, my laptop glowing in the dim light. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt calm, clear, focused. For 7 years, I'd been the invisible foundation that everyone stood on. The pillar no one acknowledged because pillars are supposed to be silent and strong and always there. But even pillars can choose to walk away. That night, I barely slept. Not because I was upset or conflicted or having second thoughts, but because I was planning every detail, every contingency, every possible reaction. By the time my alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., I was already awake, showered, dressed, and drinking coffee in the still silent house. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard the truck pull into the driveway. The rumble of a diesel engine, the squeak of air brakes, the sound of my liberation arriving right on schedule. I opened the front door before they could knock. 3 men in matching uniforms stood on the porch, looking professional and ready to work. The foreman, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and weathered hands, extended his hand. "Ms. Anderson?" "I'm Derek. We spoke yesterday. My crew and I are ready whenever you are." I shook his hand firmly. "Let's start in the living room. I have a detailed inventory list, and I've marked everything that needs to be moved." Derek nodded, noticing the 3-inch binder under my arm. "You came prepared." "I've been preparing for 7 years," I said. "I just didn't know it until yesterday." He gave me a look, one of understanding, maybe even respect. He'd probably seen situations like this before. Families that take advantage. People who finally reach their breaking point. "Let's get you out of here then," he said simply. And just like that, the dismantling of the Anderson family comfort began. The television came down first. Derek and his crew moved with practiced efficiency, one man disconnecting the maze of cables while the other 2 carefully worked at the wall mount. The 85-inch screen that had been the centerpiece of countless family movie nights, paid for by me, enjoyed by everyone, appreciated by no one, was wrapped in protective blankets within 15 minutes. I stood watching. My binder opened to the tab marked Electronics. There was the receipt, protected in a plastic sleeve. March 15th, my year-end bonus from the accounting firm, $3,200 plus tax. I'd bought it to replace the ancient TV that had finally died, thinking I was doing something nice for the family. Mason had been the first to use it. He'd hooked up his gaming system without asking, downloaded apps I'd never approved, and treated it like his personal property. When I'd mentioned that maybe we should set some usage schedules since everyone wanted to watch different things, Harper had rolled her eyes and said, "God, Nat, don't be such a control freak. It's just a TV that I bought, that they assumed was communal property." "Where to next, ma'am?" Derek asked, marking the TV on his inventory list. "Kitchen." "The refrigerator." We moved as a unit through the house, me leading with my binder, pointing out each item with clinical precision. This wasn't an emotional rampage. This was inventory management. This was reclamation. The refrigerator was a beast, a 4-door smart fridge with an ice maker, water dispenser, and touch screen panel. I'd bought it 2 years ago when the old refrigerator died in the middle of summer. My mother had called me at work, panicking about spoiled food and the heat wave. I'd left the office early, researched models, and had this one delivered within 48 hours, $2,800. Plus delivery. Plus installation. Last night I'd emptied it completely. Every item that was mine, the expensive cheeses I bought for myself, the good coffee, the organic vegetables, went into coolers in my car. Everything else, all the cheap processed food and expired condiments, I'd left in the pantry. Derek's crew disconnected the water line and carefully maneuvered the massive appliance away from the wall. Behind it, years of dust and grime were exposed, along with a few lost items that had fallen into the gap. A coupon flyer, a refrigerator magnet from a pizza place, a dried-out pen, and one postcard. I picked it up. "Greetings from Waikiki Beach," it said in bright, cheerful letters. On the back, in Harper's distinctive handwriting, "Having an amazing time. Wish you were here." It was addressed to someone named Amy, probably one of her sorority sisters. The postcard was dated 2 years ago. The trip I hadn't known about. The trip they'd lied about. I held it for a moment, then dropped it on the floor and walked away. "The washer and dryer next," I told Derek. The laundry room was down a short hallway. The machines I'd purchased 18 months ago stood silent and waiting. I pulled out the receipt from my binder. Harper had been the catalyst for this purchase. She'd come home from college one weekend and dramatically declared that she couldn't possibly use the old washer and dryer anymore. "They're literally from the Stone Age, Nat. I think they're giving my clothes a weird smell. All my sorority sisters notice it, so I'd researched, compared reviews, and bought a new high-efficiency set. $2,400. Harper had used them exactly 3 times before going back to school, where she had access to the dorm laundry facilities she'd complained about in the first place. Mason had used them constantly, never cleaning the lint trap, never sorting colors from whites, and once flooding the laundry room because he'd used way too much detergent. The crew worked carefully, disconnecting hoses and electrical connections. Within 30 minutes, both units were wrapped and loaded onto the truck. I walked through the house like a general surveying a battlefield, checking off items on my inventory list. The dishwasher? Mine. $700 when the old one finally gave up last year. The coffee maker on the kitchen counter? Mine. $400. Mason and Harper drained it every morning, never buying beans, never cleaning it, just expecting it to magically produce caffeine. The Wi-Fi mesh system that provided high-speed internet throughout the entire house? Mine. $450. 5 nodes positioned strategically so Mason could job hunt from his bedroom, Harper could post Instagram stories from anywhere, and Tyler could game without lag. What about this? One of Derek's crew members pointed to a stand mixer on the counter. I checked my binder. Leave it. That was a gift from my aunt years ago. But the food processor next to it comes with me. I bought that. Room by room, the house transformed. Not destroyed. There was no damage to walls, no scratches on floors, no broken fixtures. Just systematically emptied of everything I had paid for. In my bedroom, Derek's crew removed the memory foam mattress I'd bought last year. $2,000 for a good night's sleep after years of the lumpy old mattress no one else wanted. The bed frame stayed. It had come with the house. But the mattress, the good sheets, the weighted blanket, all of it was mine, my dresser, bought by me when I moved back home 7 years ago. Mine, my bookshelf and all my books. Mine, my desk and computer setup. Mine, by noon. My bedroom was stripped down to the basic furniture that had been there when I was a teenager. A cheap bed frame, an old desk with water rings on the surface, a lamp that flickered. "Taking a lunch break, Ms. Anderson," Derek said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You want anything? There's a deli down the street." "No, thank you. I have food in my car." While the crew ate in their truck, I walked through the progressively emptier house. The living room looked naked without the TV. The kitchen looked wrong with the gaping hole where the refrigerator had been. The laundry room echoed, but I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I was doing something wrong. I felt like I was finally doing something right. By 4 in the afternoon, the truck was fully loaded. Derek stood with me in the driveway, going over his checklist. 85-inch TV, smart fridge, washer and dryer set, dishwasher, coffee maker, Wi-Fi system with all 5 nodes, food processor, your bedroom furniture, your personal belongings. He looked up at me. "That's everything?" "That's everything that's mine," I confirmed. He nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. "New address is that studio complex on Riverside Drive, right? We can have everything unloaded by 6 o'clock. "Perfect." Derek hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Ms. Anderson, in my 20 years doing this job, I've done a lot of moves. Divorces, evictions, family situations. Whatever's happening here, whatever brought you to this point, I just want you to know, you're handling it with more grace than most people would." I felt my throat tighten slightly, but I kept my voice steady. "Thank you, Derek." After they left, I stood alone in the house that suddenly felt twice as large and infinitely colder. I pulled out my phone and did something I'd been planning all day. I walked from room to room, recording video. Documenting the condition of everything. No damage to the walls where the TV had hung. No scratches on the floor where the furniture had been moved. No dents in the doorways. Everything removed carefully, professionally. Legally evidenced just in case. In the kitchen, I opened cabinets to reveal the mismatched mugs and cheap plates that had been in the house before I started upgrading things. The pantry held only the basics, my father's sugary cereals, my mother's diet crackers, the instant coffee no one actually liked to drink. The refrigerator's absence left behind years of hidden grime and dust. I didn't clean it. That wasn't my job anymore. Upstairs, my bedroom was almost unrecognizable. The bare mattress. The empty desk. Even my curtains were gone. I'd bought those too. I sat on the floor with my laptop and began making calls. First, the electric company, Magnolia Power. How can I help you? Hi, I need to confirm a service cancellation at 2847 Meadowbrook Drive. Account holder Natalie Anderson. Let me pull that up. Typing sounds. Yes, I see your cancellation is scheduled for Sunday at 5 p.m. Is there anything you need to change? Just confirming the timeline. Service will be disconnected completely? No grace period? That's correct. After 5 p.m. on Sunday, the power will be shut off to the entire residence until someone else establishes a new account. Perfect. Thank you. I made the same confirmation call to the water company, the gas company, and the internet provider. Each one confirmed, Sunday at 5 p.m., everything would be disconnected. My family was scheduled to return Monday evening. They'd arrive home in the dark, literally and figuratively. That night, I slept on a blanket on the floor of my empty bedroom. Not because I had to, I could have gone to a hotel or even to my new apartment where my furniture was being set up. But I wanted to spend one last night in this house. I wanted to feel the full weight of what I was doing. I wanted to be absolutely certain. I lay there in the darkness, listening to the house settle around me. The creak of floorboards, the hum of the heating system, the distant sound of neighbors celebrating their Thanksgiving weekend with laughter and music, and I felt nothing but clarity. 7 years ago, I'd walked back into this house as a hopeful 19-year-old, ready to help my family through a temporary rough patch. I'd believed in the words, family comes first, and we take care of our own. Now, at 26, I understood the truth. Those phrases only applied when it was convenient for them. When it was me sacrificing, me giving, me setting aside my own dreams and goals, the moment they wanted a luxury vacation, family apparently meant everyone except me. I woke up at dawn, showered in the bathroom one final time, and packed up my last remaining items. My toiletries, the blanket I'd slept on, the single towel I'd kept out. Before I left, I walked to the kitchen counter and carefully arranged 3 items in a neat row. First, my house keys. The ones I'd carried for 7 years. The ones I'd used to unlock this door thousands of times. Coming home from work, from grocery shopping, from the life I'd built around maintaining this family's comfort. Second, a stack of unopened utility bills. All addressed to Richard and Victoria Anderson, all for services I'd been paying for years, all about to become their problem. Third, a single sheet of paper. On it, I'd written one sentence in my neat accountant's handwriting. I've been responsible long enough. No explanation. No list of grievances, no emotional plea or angry accusations. Just that one simple statement. I took one last look around the kitchen. The empty space where my refrigerator had been, the bare counter where my coffee maker had sat, the silent house that had taken so much from me. Then I walked out, pulled the door shut behind me, and heard the lock click into place with a sound that felt like freedom. My new studio apartment was everything the Anderson house wasn't. Small, simple, completely, utterly mine. 400 square feet of space that would fit inside the Anderson family living room with room to spare. A kitchenette instead of a full kitchen. A bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. A single large room that served as bedroom, living room, and dining room all at once. And I loved every single inch of it. Derek's crew had done an amazing job. My TV was mounted on the wall, perfectly positioned for viewing from my bed and my small couch. My smart fridge fit perfectly in the kitchenette space, looking almost comically large, but working beautifully. They'd even set up my washer and dryer in the designated laundry closet, stacked to save space. The dishwasher couldn't be installed. There wasn't room for it in the kitchenette setup. So I'd sold it online within hours of posting it. $700 cash. The buyer was thrilled. I was $700 richer. I spent that Friday unpacking, organizing, making this space mine. My books on the shelf, arranged by genre and then alphabetically by author. My clothes in my dresser, with actual room to spare because I wasn't sharing space with anyone else's overflow. My coffee maker on the counter, ready to brew coffee that only I would drink. That evening, I ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, The one I never suggested to the family because Mason hated weird food, and Harper was always on some new restrictive diet. I ate pad thai straight from the container, watching whatever I wanted on my TV, not having to negotiate or compromise or wait my turn. It was the best meal I'd had in 7 years. Saturday, I went shopping. Not grocery shopping for a family of 6. Not buying supplies for holiday meals I'd have to cook alone. Shopping for me, I bought the expensive coffee beans I liked. The imported cheese that Mason always complained was too fancy. The organic produce, Harper said, was a waste of money. The dark chocolate. Tyler always stole from my personal stash. Bought fresh flowers for my kitchen counter. I bought a cozy throw blanket for my couch. I bought scented candles and fragrances I loved, but my mother always said were too strong. I spent $200 on things that were completely, utterly unnecessary and absolutely worth it. That night, I sat in my apartment with all my small, perfect purchases around me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Sunday morning, I woke up naturally, without an alarm. The sun was streaming through my window, and I could hear the faint sounds of the city below. Car horns, people talking, life happening all around me. I made coffee with my expensive beans and my high-end coffee maker. I sat on my couch with my laptop and checked my bank account. The numbers were almost shocking. Without the $2,200 monthly mortgage payment, without the constant emergency expenses for the house, without subsidizing my siblings' lifestyles, my bank balance was substantial. I'd been so busy being responsible, so focused on covering everyone else's needs, that I hadn't realized how much I was actually earning. My job at the accounting firm paid well, very well, and for the first time in 7 years, all that money was mine to keep. I opened a new spreadsheet, Old Habits Die Hard, and created a budget. Not for survival, not for scraping by, a budget for building the life I'd always wanted. First, an emergency fund. 3 months of expenses, fully funded within 60 days. Second, retirement contributions. Maxing out my 401k, starting a Roth IRA. Third, a savings goal for a down payment on my own property. Something small, a condo maybe, something that would be mine, with my name alone on the deed. Fourth, fun money, travel, hobbies, the graduate degree I'd been putting off, life. I was staring at the numbers, feeling lighter than I had in years, when my phone lit up with a notification, Ring Doorbell app. I'd forgotten to delete it. The app was still connected to the doorbell at the Anderson house, the doorbell I'd installed 2 years ago when the old one stopped working. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the notification. I could just delete it, move on, never look back, but curiosity won. I opened the app and saw the live feed from the front door of 2847 Meadowbrook Drive. It was exactly 4:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the utilities shut off. My family was home. I watched as my father's sedan pulled into the driveway, followed by Mason's Jeep. They all piled out, tanned, relaxed, laughing. My mother clutched a pineapple-shaped souvenir bag. Harper and Tyler wore matching Aloha shirts. Mason had a fresh sunburn on his nose. They looked happy, rested, like people who just returned from a wonderful vacation, a vacation I'd funded with 7 years of sacrifice, a vacation I hadn't been invited to. I turned up the volume on my phone and watched. My father fumbled with his keys at the door. Damn jet lag, can barely see straight. I just want to sleep for 12 hours, Harper said, dragging her oversized suitcase up the walk. Did anyone remember to text Nat that we'd be home tonight? My mother asked. Silence. Then Tyler. Oh, was I supposed to do that? More silence. Then Mason. I mean, she knows when we're getting back. She's probably just at work or something. They didn't even care that they'd left me behind. They weren't rushing in to apologize or explain. They were annoyed that no one had remembered to send me a courtesy text. The door swung open. They flooded inside, voices echoing in the entryway. God, it's dark in here, Harper complained. Mom, why are all the lights off? The switch isn't working, my father said. I could hear him clicking it repeatedly. That's odd. Try the kitchen light, my mother suggested. Pause. More clicking. Nothing. The power must be out. Did you forget to pay the electric bill? Mason asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Me? My father's voice rose. Your mother handles the utilities. I do not handle the utilities, my mother shot back. Natalie handles all of that. She's been managing the bills for years. More silence. I could imagine them standing in the dark hallway, exhaustion from travel mixing with growing confusion. Let me check the breaker, my father said. I heard his heavy footsteps fade toward the basement. A minute passed. Then 2. He came back. The breaker is fine. Everything's switched on. The power is just off. Call the electric company, my mother said. This is ridiculous. We just got home from vacation and… Mom! Harper's voice cut through, sharp and high-pitched. Where's the TV? I smiled, taking a sip of my coffee. What? My mother's voice was confused. The TV. The big TV. It's gone. Footsteps. Shuffling. The beam of phone flashlights sweeping across walls. What the hell? Mason's voice. Where's all the furniture? Richard! My mother's scream was piercing. The house has been robbed! I watched them spill back onto the front porch, their faces pale in the dying light. Harper was filming the empty living room on her phone. Tyler looked genuinely scared. Mason was already dialing 911. Yes, we need police at 2847 Meadowbrook Drive. We've been robbed. Everything is gone. The TV, the furniture, appliances, everything. I watched as they paced the porch, as the shock and panic set in, as they called the police, called neighbors, called Uncle Mitchell, and then, exactly at 5 p.m., I watched the Ring doorbell camera go dark, internet disconnected right on schedule. I set my phone down on my coffee table and stood up, stretching. Through my apartment window, the city was coming alive with Sunday evening activity. Restaurants opening for dinner, people walking dogs, life continuing normally for everyone except the Anderson family. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free. They would figure it out eventually. They would realize no one had broken in. They would find my note on the kitchen counter. They would understand what had happened, but that would take time. And in the meantime, they would spend at least a few hours experiencing what I'd felt on Thursday morning. Confused, abandoned, and wondering how the people who were supposed to care about them could do something so cruel. I made myself dinner, a simple pasta dish with those expensive ingredients I'd bought. I ate slowly, savoring every bite. I watched a movie I'd been wanting to see for months. I went to bed early, in my own bed, in my own space, with my own life finally beginning. And for the first time in 7 years, I slept peacefully through the entire night. The phone calls started at 6:43 a.m. Monday morning. My phone, sitting on my nightstand, buzzed with such violence that it vibrated itself halfway across the surface. I was already awake. Old habits from years of early alarms don't die easily, so I just watched it shake and ring. No caller ID. They were calling from numbers I didn't have saved. I let it ring. And ring and ring. 15 missed calls before I even got out of bed. 23 by the time I finished my shower. 37 by the time I'd made my coffee and sat down with my laptop to check my work emails. Then the texts started, from my mother's number. Natalie, call me immediately. Where are you? The house was robbed. Everything is gone. Call me, from my father's number. Natalie, this isn't funny. Call us back. We need to file a police report, and we need to know if you saw anything suspicious. From Mason. Seriously? You're ignoring us right now? Real mature, Nat. From Harper. OMG, call Mom back. She's freaking out. Someone broke in and stole like everything. Did you see anything? From Tyler. Hey sis, everyone's trying to reach you. Can you call when you get this? I read each message calmly, sipping my coffee. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I got ready for work. I'd taken Thursday and Friday off for Thanksgiving, but I was scheduled to be back in the office today. My boss had offered me the whole week, but I'd declined. What was I going to do? Sit alone in an empty house while my family vacationed in paradise? I dressed in one of my best work outfits, a charcoal gray suit that I'd bought on sale but had never worn because it felt too nice for regular office days. Today felt like a day for nice things. My phone had mercifully stopped buzzing by the time I left for work. 62 missed calls, 47 text messages, all ignored. At the office, my coworker Jennifer immediately noticed something different. Nat, you're glowing. Did you have a good Thanksgiving? I smiled, setting my bag down at my desk. Actually, yes. Very enlightening. Do anything special? I moved into a new apartment. Oh my God, really? I didn't know you were looking to move. Tell me everything. How big? Where? Do you have a balcony? For the first time in years, I talked about myself, my space, my plans, my life, not my family's needs or problems or crises. Mine. It felt foreign and wonderful. Around 11 a.m., my work phone rang, the office line. Our receptionist's voice was apologetic. Natalie, I'm so sorry to bother you, but there's a woman named Victoria Anderson in the lobby. She says she's your mother, and it's an emergency. My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed calm. Tell her I'm in an important meeting and can't be disturbed. She's saying it's urgent. Something about a break-in? I understand, but I'm not available. If she'd like to leave a message, I'll get it when I'm free. A pause. Okay, I'll let her know. 5 minutes later, Jennifer leaned over from her cubicle. Hey, did your mom really come to the office? Linda just told me there was a whole scene in the lobby. Apparently, I said, not looking up from my spreadsheet. Is everything okay? I met her eyes. Everything is perfect. My family is just having trouble adjusting to me setting boundaries. Jennifer blinked, then slowly smiled. Good for you, girl. My work phone rang again at 2:00 p.m. This time it was our office manager, Gloria. Natalie, there are now 3 people in our lobby claiming to be your family members. They're demanding to see you. Should I call security? 3 people. My mother, my father, and probably Mason. No need for security, I said calmly. Just inform them that I'm unable to see anyone without a scheduled appointment, and my calendar is full for the day. If they'd like to make an appointment, they can email me. Are you sure? Because they're getting a bit loud. I'm sure. Thank you, Gloria. I worked until 6 p.m. that day, taking my time with my projects, enjoying the quiet focus of my work. When I finally packed up my things and took the elevator down to the lobby, my family was gone. But there was a note taped to the front glass door. Natalie, we need to talk. Come to the house tonight. This has gone far enough. Dad. I pulled the note down, folded it once, and dropped it in the recycling bin on my way out. At home, my small, perfect studio, I made myself dinner and settled onto my couch. 62 missed calls had become 114. 47 text messages had become 93. I read through them with clinical detachment. My mother, please call me. I don't understand what's happening. Did someone hurt you? My father, this silent treatment is childish. Whatever you're upset about, we can discuss it like adults. Mason, you can't just ignore us forever. We're family. Harper, seriously, Nat, what is your problem? We came home to no power, no internet, half the house is empty, and you won't even answer your phone? Tyler, I don't know what happened, but this feels really weird. Can you please just call Mom back? She's crying. And then, at 7:43 p.m., a text from a number I didn't recognize. Natalie, this is Uncle Mitchell. Your parents asked me to reach out. I understand you're upset about Thanksgiving. I should have handled that phone call better. But please, this situation with the house has everyone very concerned. Can we talk? I stared at that message for a long time. Uncle Mitchell, the one who'd let me hear Harper's cruel comment in the background. The one who'd confirmed they'd all deliberately left me behind. I typed out a response. Uncle Mitchell, I appreciate you reaching out. But I'm not upset about Thanksgiving. I'm enlightened by it, and there's no situation with the house. I simply removed my property when I moved out. Everything I took, I paid for. Everything I canceled, I was paying for. I've been responsible long enough. Please don't contact me again. I hit send and immediately blocked the number. Tuesday morning brought a new development. I was getting ready for work when my apartment buzzer rang. Yes? Ms. Anderson, there are 2 police officers here asking to speak with you. They say your family filed a report about stolen property. My heart rate didn't even increase. I'd been expecting this. Send them up. I finished my coffee, straightened my apartment, though it was already immaculate, and waited. The knock came 3 minutes later. I opened the door to find 2 officers, one young, maybe early 30s, with a name tag reading Officer Chen, and one older with gray hair and kind eyes, Officer Morrison. Ms. Natalie Anderson? That's me. Please come in. Would you like coffee? I just made a fresh pot. They exchanged glances. People don't usually offer coffee to police officers investigating theft claims. No thank you, ma'am, Officer Chen said. We're here about a report filed by Richard and Victoria Anderson regarding missing property from 2847 Meadowbrook Drive. They claim you may have information about the incident. I walked calmly to my bookshelf and pulled down my 3-inch binder. The weight of it was reassuring as I carried it back to the small dining table. I have all the information you need right here. For the next 20 minutes, I walked them through every receipt, every bank statement, every proof of purchase. The TV, the refrigerator, the washer and dryer, the dishwasher, the coffee maker. The Wi-Fi system, Officer Morrison's expression, shifted from professional neutrality to something like respect as he turned page after page. This is very thorough documentation. Ms. Anderson, I'm an accountant. Documentation is what I do. Officer Chen looked around my apartment, taking in the items in question. All perfectly arranged, obviously well cared for. And the utilities that were disconnected? All in my name. All paid by me for the past 7 years. When I moved out, I canceled service. That's my legal right as the account holder. And you lived at the Meadowbrook Drive residence for 7 years. I moved back home at 19 to help with family finances. I contributed $2,200 per month toward the mortgage, plus I paid all utilities and home maintenance costs. That's $184,800 over 7 years, not counting the additional expenses. Officer Morrison let out a low whistle. And your family? Officer Chen consulted his notes. They claim this was theft, that these items belonged to the household. I met his eyes steadily. Officer, do you see my name on any of those receipts? He flipped through several pages. Yes, ma'am. Every single one. Do you see anyone else's name? No, ma'am. Then how can it be theft for me to take my own property when I move out? The officers exchanged another look. Officer Morrison closed the binder carefully. Ms. Anderson, this is clearly a civil matter, not a criminal one. You have documentation proving ownership of every item. You had every legal right to remove your property and cancel services in your name. He paused. May I ask what prompted this move? I smiled, but there was no humor in it. I woke up Thanksgiving morning to find my entire family had left for a luxury vacation in Maui. They deleted my contacts from my phone so I couldn't easily reach them. They didn't invite me, didn't tell me about the trip, and left me alone in the house. When I called my uncle to find out where everyone was, I heard my sister say, God, are you talking to her? I thought the plan was just to let her stay home. Officer Chen's expression shifted. They planned to exclude you. They did exclude me. After 7 years of me funding their lifestyle, they decided I wasn't worth including in the family vacation. So I decided they weren't worth funding anymore. Officer Morrison nodded slowly. That's rough. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the wake-up call I needed. As they stood to leave, Officer Chen hesitated at the door. Ms. Anderson, just so you're aware, your family is very insistent that this was theft. They may try to pursue this further. Let them, I said calmly. I have 7 years of documentation. I have proof of purchase for everything. I have bank statements showing my mortgage contributions. I have utility bills in my name. Let them try. After they left, I sat in my quiet apartment and waited. I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, 30 minutes later, my phone exploded with messages. My father. The police just left. They say you have receipts. This doesn't change the fact that you stole from your family. My mother. How could you do this to us? We raised you. We gave you a home. Mason, you're seriously going to throw away your family over some appliances? Get over yourself. Harper. Everyone at my sorority thinks you're psycho BTW. Who does this to their own family? Tyler. I don't understand what's happening. Can someone please explain this to me? I read them all. And then I did something I should have done years ago. I composed one message and sent it to all of them simultaneously. You gave me a home? No, I paid for that home. For 7 years, I contributed $2,200 per month to the mortgage while living in the worst bedroom. I paid for every utility. I bought every appliance when the old ones broke. I paid for home repairs, property taxes, and improvements. That's $184,800 in mortgage payments alone, not counting everything else. And when you wanted to celebrate your anniversary with a luxury Hawaiian vacation funded by my money, you didn't think I was worth inviting. You deliberately excluded me. You deleted my contacts. You left in the night. You let me wake up alone on Thanksgiving. So no, Mason, this isn't about appliances. This is about 7 years of being treated like an ATM instead of a family member. I took what was mine. I canceled services I was paying for. Everything I did was legal and documented. Don't contact me again. I'm done being responsible for all of you. I hit send and immediately blocked every single number. Then I opened my laptop and sent one more email to Uncle Mitchell. For your records, I've attached documentation of my 7-year financial contribution to my parents' household. You asked what prompted this. The answer is simple. I realized I was funding a family that didn't actually want me in it. I've corrected that situation. Please don't involve yourself further. I attached a PDF of my spreadsheet showing every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every major purchase. Then I closed my laptop, poured myself a glass of wine, and watched the sunset from my small apartment window. Somewhere across town, my family was sitting in a dark, half-empty house, finally understanding what it cost to have me in their lives. And I was here, in my small, perfect space, finally understanding what it felt like to be free. 3 weeks passed before I saw them again. 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of peace, 3 weeks of learning who I was when I wasn't defined by my family's needs. I threw myself into work, into building the life I'd always put on hold. I signed up for a pottery class I'd been interested in for years. I started going to a gym near my apartment. I made plans with coworkers for happy hour, something I'd never done before, because I'd always rushed home to make dinner or handle some household emergency. I was learning something revolutionary. I actually liked my life when it was mine. The encounter happened at Riverside Market on a Wednesday evening. I was in the produce section, debating between organic and regular strawberries, a luxury of choice I'd never had when buying groceries for 6 people on a budget, when I sensed someone staring at me. I looked up to find Mason and Harper near the apples, trying to look casual and failing completely. Harper saw me first, her eyes narrowing. Mason straightened up, squaring his shoulders. They were blocking the only exit from the produce section. I could have left my cart and walked out, could have avoided the confrontation entirely. But something in me had changed. I wasn't going to run from them. I wasn't going to hide or apologize or shrink. I selected my strawberries, organic, because I could afford them now, and pushed my cart forward. Harper stepped directly into my path. She'd lost weight, I noticed. Her face looked thinner, the privilege and certainty that had always marked her expression replaced with something harder. "This isn't funny, Natalie." Her voice was low but sharp. "Mom cries every single day, every single day. You need to fix this." I placed a bag of mixed greens in my cart, not responding. "Did you hear me?" Harper's voice rose slightly. A few other shoppers glanced our way. "You need to turn the power back on. You need to bring back the appliances. This has gone way too far." I looked at her directly for the first time. My 23-year-old sister, who'd never worked a day in her life, who'd had every expense covered, every whim indulged, who'd gone to Hawaii while I stayed home, and who'd said I should just be left there. "No," I said simply. Mason moved closer, inserting himself between me and my cart. His designer shirt was wrinkled, I noticed. His usually perfect hair looked like it needed a cut. The golden boy entrepreneur who'd burned through $55,000 of our parents' money looked almost desperate. "Just turn the internet back on," he said, and I could hear the pleading edge in his voice. "That's all I'm asking. How am I supposed to apply for jobs? You've gone too far, Nat, way too far." I tilted my head, studying him. "You're 29 years old, Mason." "What does that have to—" "You're 29. Get your own Wi-Fi." I pushed past him, my cart rolling smoothly toward the checkout lanes. Behind me, I heard Harper's outraged gasp and Mason's protest, but I didn't turn around. "Natalie!" Harper called out, her voice echoing through the store. "You can't just walk away. We're your family." I stopped, turned back to face them one more time. "Yes, I can," I said clearly. "I've been the only adult in this family for 7 years. I'm done." I left them standing there in the produce section and finished my shopping in peace. The lawsuit arrived 5 weeks after Thanksgiving. I came home from work to find a manila envelope wedged in my apartment door. Inside, a summons to small claims court, the Anderson family versus Natalie Anderson. They were suing me for $5,000 in emotional damages and the return of stolen property. I sat on my couch and read through the complaint. My mother's handwriting on the signature line was shaky but determined. My father's name was listed as the primary plaintiff. Their claims were almost laughable. Defendant abandoned family during holidays, causing severe emotional distress. Defendant maliciously removed essential household items. Defendant shut off utilities without warning, creating hazardous living conditions. Not one word about the $184,000 I'd paid toward their mortgage. Not one mention of 7 years of financial support. Not one acknowledgement that everything I'd taken belonged to me. I called a lawyer the next day, a family friend who'd handled estate planning for my grandmother years ago. "Natalie Anderson," he said warmly when his secretary put me through. "I haven't heard from you in ages. How's the family?" "That's actually why I'm calling, Mr. Barrett. My family is suing me." I heard paper shuffling. "I see. Why don't you come in tomorrow and we'll discuss this?" In his office, I presented my 3-inch binder. Mr. Barrett, George, he insisted I call him, spent 40 minutes reviewing every page. When he finally looked up, he was smiling. "This is the most comprehensive documentation I've seen in 30 years of practice." He tapped the binder. "You have receipts for everything? Everything over $20. Bank statements showing your mortgage contributions? 7 years worth? Utility bills in your name alone? All of them." He leaned back in his chair. "Natalie, they don't have a case. This is going to be dismissed so fast, it'll make their heads spin. In fact," he flipped through his calendar, "I'll represent you pro bono. This is going to be deeply satisfying." The court date was set for 8 weeks away. In the meantime, life continued. I got a promotion at work, something my supervisor had been planning but hadn't announced yet. Apparently, my attention to detail and organizational skills had not gone unnoticed. A 15% raise and a new title, Senior Financial Analyst. I celebrated by taking myself out to dinner at the expensive steakhouse downtown, the one my Ida family had always said was too fancy and a waste of money. I ordered the filet mignon, a glass of excellent red wine, and the chocolate lava cake for dessert. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, and I didn't feel guilty once. Uncle Mitchell called once more, 3 days before the court date. I'd unblocked his number by accident while clearing out old contacts, and he'd seized the opportunity. "Natalie, please don't hang up." I considered it. "Then, you have 1 minute. The house is being foreclosed on. Silence." I waited for the guilt to hit, for the panic, for the instinct to fix it. Nothing came. "They couldn't make the mortgage payments," he continued. After you left, they couldn't cover it. The bank gave them 90 days, but..." He trailed off. "They're moving into a rental next week, a 2-bedroom apartment." "That must be difficult for them," I said, my voice neutral. "Natalie, they're your parents. Mason and Harper are struggling. Even Tyler had to come home from college. They can't afford his housing anymore. Tyler can get student loans like everyone else. Mason can get a job. Harper can transfer to a community college like I did. They'll figure it out. They're adults." "They're family," Uncle Mitchell said, and I could hear the desperation in his voice. "Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I thought about that Thanksgiving morning, the empty house, the deleted contacts. Harper's voice saying, "I thought the plan was just to let her stay home." "It meant everything to me," I said quietly. "That was the problem. It meant nothing to them. Goodbye, Uncle Mitchell." I hung up and blocked his number again, this time permanently. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Worn wooden benches, fluorescent lights that hummed overhead, a tired-looking clerk shuffling papers. My family sat on one side of the aisle. My mother looked older, her face drawn and makeup applied hastily. My father's suit was the same one he'd worn to every important event for the past decade, slightly too tight now. Mason sat beside them, stone-faced. Harper had opted not to come, probably couldn't handle the public accountability. I sat on the other side with George, my 3-inch binder on the table in front of us. I'd dressed in my best suit, my hair pulled back professionally, every inch the competent financial analyst I'd become. Tyler was there, sitting in the back row, not on either side. When our eyes met, he looked away, quickly. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Winters presiding. Judge Winters was a black woman in her 60s, with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen every family drama imaginable and was not impressed by any of them. Kessler versus Kessler, the clerk called out. We approached the bench. My father spoke first, reading from a prepared statement. His voice shook slightly as he talked about family obligations, about the pain of having a daughter turn against them, about coming home to find their lives dismantled. We gave her everything, he said, his voice breaking strategically. A home, a family, love and support, and she repaid us by stealing our belongings and abandoning us. We're asking for $5,000 to help replace essential items and for the court to order her to return the property she took. Judge Winters listened without expression. When my father finished, she turned to me. Ms. Anderson, your response? I didn't speak. Instead, George placed my 3-inch binder on the judge's desk. The sound it made, that solid, definitive thump, echoed through the small courtroom. Judge Winters opened it. The room fell silent except for the whisper of pages turning. She spent 5 minutes reviewing receipts, bank statements, and utility bills. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw her eyebrows raise slightly at the mortgage payment documentation. Finally, she looked up at my father. Mr. Anderson, according to these records, your daughter contributed $2,200 per month toward your mortgage for 7 years. Is that accurate? My father shifted uncomfortably. Well, yes, but she lived in the house. It was her contribution to the household. $2,200 out of a $3,000 mortgage. That's 73% of the total payment. Judge Winters flipped to another page. And she also paid all utilities? Electric, water, gas, internet? Your Honor, she was part of the family. These were shared expenses. Mr. Anderson, I'm asking yes or no questions. Did your daughter pay the utilities? Yes. And these receipts show she purchased the television, refrigerator, washer, dryer, and other appliances with her own funds. Is that accurate? My father's jaw tightened. Those were for the family home, for everyone to use. But purchased with her money, in her name, with her credit cards and bank accounts? Well, technically, yes. Judge Winters closed the binder with a sharp snap that made my mother flinch. Mr. Anderson, Mrs. Anderson. Her voice carried the weight of authority and barely concealed irritation. Your daughter has provided extensive documentation proving ownership of every item she removed from your residence. She has bank statements showing $184,000 in mortgage contributions over 7 years. She has utility bills in her name alone for that same period. My mother started to speak, but Judge Winters held up her hand. I'm not finished. You are claiming she stole property that she purchased with her own money. You are claiming she abandoned you when she stopped paying 73% of your mortgage and 100% of your utilities. She leaned forward. What I'm hearing is that your adult daughter financially supported you for 7 years, and when she stopped, you decided to sue her for it. Your Honor, if I may, my father started. You may not. Judge Winters' voice was sharp. This case is dismissed. Not only dismissed, but I'm going to be very clear with you both. If you bring frivolous claims like this to my court again, I will sanction you for wasting judicial resources. Your daughter had every legal right to remove her property and cancel services in her name. The fact that you've brought this case at all suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of both the law and basic decency. She turned to me, her expression softening slightly. Ms. Anderson, I'm sorry your family put you through this. You're free to go. The gavel came down with a crack that seemed to echo forever. My parents sat frozen in shock. Mason's face had gone bright red. In the back row, Tyler was staring at the floor. I stood, gathered my binder, and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. George caught up with me in the hallway, grinning broadly. That was beautiful. Judge Winters doesn't pull punches. Thank you for representing me. My pleasure. Truly. He paused. Are you okay? I thought about it. Was I okay? My family had just tried to sue me and been publicly humiliated in court. The people who raised me, who I'd loved and supported for years, had demonstrated in the clearest possible terms that they saw me as nothing more than a financial resource. I'm better than okay, I said, and meant it. I'm free. 6 months passed before I heard from them again. 6 months of building my life, my way, on my terms. 6 months of discovering who Natalie Anderson was when she wasn't defined by family obligation. I threw myself into my career and was rewarded for it. Another promotion. Another raise. My supervisor mentioned I was being considered for junior partner track, something I'd never dreamed possible when I was exhausted from working all day and managing a household all evening. I traveled. Real travel, not imagining it while staying home to watch the house. I went to Portland for a long weekend, then to Montreal, then to Sedona, Arizona, where I hiked among red rocks and felt more at peace than I'd ever been. I made friends. Real friends who knew me as Natalie, not as someone's daughter or sister or family ATM. Jennifer from work became my close confidant. I joined a book club where no one knew my history. I started dating casually. Nothing serious, just learning what it felt like to have someone value my time and company. My savings account grew at a rate that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Without the burden of supporting 5 other adults, I was able to build an emergency fund, max out my retirement contributions, and start seriously saving for a down payment on a small condo. I was 27 now. And for the first time in my adult life, I was living like a 27-year-old should. The contact came through. LinkedIn of all places. Mason Kessler has sent you a message. I almost deleted it without reading. Almost. But curiosity got the better of me. Hey Nat, hope you're doing well. Listen, I've got an interview at Meridian Tech next week. It's a big deal, senior developer position. Any chance you could be a professional reference? You know how reliable I am when I put my mind to something. Would really appreciate it. Emma stared at the message for a long time. Mason was 29 years old. He'd spent the last 3 years regrouping from his failed startup. He'd lived rent-free in our parents' house, my house, the one I was paying for, while doing minimal job searching and maximum complaining. And now he wanted me to vouch for his professional reliability. The audacity was almost impressive. I clicked ignore and then blocked his profile. Then came the envelope in my mailbox. Hand-addressed, my mother's distinctive handwriting. I held it for a moment, debating whether to just throw it away unopened. But I'd come too far to hide from them now. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of stationery, the expensive kind my mother saved for special occasions, and a photograph. The photo showed my family in front of a modest apartment building. My parents, Mason, Harper, Tyler, they looked tired, older. The background showed a simple concrete building, nothing like the spacious house they'd lost. The letter was short. Natalie, I know you don't want to hear from us. I understand why, but I'm writing to let you know that we've moved to a 2-bedroom apartment on Elm Street. Your father, Tyler, and Mason share one room. Harper and I share the other. It's difficult, but we're managing. Harper had to withdraw from Westlake. She's attending community college now and working part-time at a retail store. Tyler took out student loans and moved back to campus. Mason is actively job hunting. Your father finally found full-time work at a warehouse. The pay isn't great, but it's honest work. I've taken a position as a receptionist at a dental office. I'm not writing to ask you for anything. I just wanted you to know that we're learning what you tried to teach us. We took advantage of your generosity and love. We excluded you from our family when you were the one holding us together. We were wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What we did, what we cost you. I hope you're happy. Mom. I read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation. for guilt tripping, for some hidden request for money or reconciliation, but it wasn't there. This was just information, an acknowledgement, maybe even an apology in its way. I sat with it for a long time, felt the weight of it, the finality. Part of me, a small, wounded part, wanted to feel triumphant. They were struggling now. They were experiencing consequences. They were learning what I'd been trying to tell them for years, that responsibility has weight, that money doesn't appear magically. That comfort comes at a cost. But mostly I just felt sad. Sad for the years we could have had as a real family. Sad for the relationship we'd never managed to build. Sad that it took losing everything for them to see me as a person instead of a resource. I didn't respond to the letter. There was nothing to say. But I didn't throw it away either. I put it in a drawer, a record of what had happened, where we'd ended up. 2 months later, Uncle Mitchell sent me an email. Subject line: no response needed, just an update. Natalie, your mother asked me not to contact you, but I thought you'd want to know that things are stabilizing for them. Richard is doing well at his job. Victoria got promoted to office manager. Mason finally got hired at a tech startup. Not the senior position he wanted, but he's working. Harper is thriving at community college, actually. Better than she ever did at Westlake. Tyler is on track to graduate next year with minimal debt because of the student loans and his part-time campus job. They're making it work. It's hard, but they're functioning as an actual family unit for the first time in, well, probably in decades. Your mother talks about you sometimes. Never with blame or anger anymore. Usually with regret. She says she understands now why you did what you did. That if she'd been in your position, she probably would have left years earlier. I'm not asking you to reach out. I'm not asking you to forgive them. I just thought you'd want to know they're okay. And that they finally understand. Take care of yourself. Mitchell, I read the email once and archived it. I was genuinely glad they were okay. I didn't wish them hardship or suffering. But their well-being wasn't my responsibility anymore. And that realization, that freedom, was everything. It's been a year now. Since that Thanksgiving morning, I'm sitting on the balcony of my new condo. Yes, I bought it. A 1-bedroom with a tiny balcony overlooking the city, drinking my expensive coffee and watching the sunrise. I'm 27 years old. I have a career I'm proud of, a home that's entirely mine, savings and investments that grow every month. I have friends who value me. I have hobbies and interests I've actually had time to pursue. I have a life. People ask me sometimes if I ever feel guilty. Coworkers who heard whispers of what happened. The few friends who know the full story. My therapist, who I started seeing 6 months ago to process everything. They want to know if I regret taking my property. If I feel bad about cutting off my family. If I wonder whether I went too far. The answer is simple. No. What I did wasn't revenge. Revenge implies wanting to hurt someone for the sake of hurting them. What I did was self-preservation. It was boundary setting. It was finally, after 7 years of being used, choosing myself. I took what was legally mine. I canceled services I was paying for. I removed myself from a situation where I was being exploited. Those aren't acts of cruelty. They're acts of self-respect. The hard truth I've learned is this. Some people will only value you for what you provide, not for who you are. And when you stop providing, they won't mourn the loss of your presence. They'll mourn the loss of your resources. My family didn't miss me when they were in Hawaii. They missed me when the power went out. That tells you everything you need to know. I've learned other things too. I've learned that the word family can be used as a weapon. But where family becomes a justification for exploitation, family comes first, becomes a demand that you sacrifice yourself endlessly. Blood is thicker than water, becomes permission to drain you dry and expect gratitude for it. Real family, the kind worth having, doesn't work that way. Real family values your presence, not just your presence. Real family includes you in celebrations, not just in obligations. Real family asks what you need, not just what you can give. I've also learned that the responsible one is often code for the one we can take advantage of. In my family, being responsible meant being invisible. It meant my needs were always secondary. It meant I was valued for my function, not my humanity. When I stopped functioning as their ATM, I stopped being valuable to them. That's not love. That's exploitation with a family label attached. The scariest part of my story isn't that my family used me. It's how long I let them do it. 7 years. 7 years of telling myself it was temporary, that I was helping, that this was what good daughters do. 7 years of making myself smaller so they could be comfortable. 7 years of suppressing my own dreams so they could pursue theirs. 7 years of being the invisible pillar that held everything up while getting no credit, no appreciation, no basic respect. I let it happen because I believed the narrative they fed me. That I was the responsible one. That family meant sacrifice. That my role was to give and their role was to take. It took being deliberately excluded from a vacation I'd essentially paid for to make me see the truth. I wasn't a family member. I was a resource. And when I stopped being useful, I became disposable. Some people might say I was vindictive, that I should have talked to them first, given them a chance to change, worked it out like adults. But here's what those people don't understand. I had been talking to them for 7 years. Every time I wrote a check for the mortgage, every time I paid a utility bill, every time I bought new appliances when the old ones broke, every time I stayed home while they took vacations I wasn't invited to, I was communicating clearly. I love you. I'm here for you. I'll support you. And they were communicating just as clearly back. We accept your money, but not your presence. We want your sacrifice, but not your company. We need your support, but not you. Actions are communication. And their actions told me everything I needed to know. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. I think about that morning sometimes. Waking up to the empty house, the silence, the confusion turning to understanding, turning to clarity. That was the worst morning of my life. And also, in a strange way, the best. Because that morning, something broke. Not in a destructive way, in a transformative way. Like a seed breaking open to grow. Like a cocoon tearing so a butterfly can emerge. I broke free from a pattern that was slowly killing me. I shattered the chains I'd been wearing so long I'd forgotten they were there. I finally chose myself. And you know what? The world didn't end. The sky didn't fall. My family didn't collapse. They adjusted. They learned to stand on their own feet. They found jobs. They made it work. Turns out they didn't need me as much as they claimed. They just wanted me to keep making their lives easier. My therapist asked me recently, if you could go back and do it differently, would you? I thought about it carefully. Would I have that conversation first? Would I give them a chance to change? Would I ease them into independence instead of cutting them off cold? No, I said, because they'd had 7 years to see me as a person instead of a bank account. 7 years to include me instead of excluding me. 7 years to value me instead of using me. If they hadn't figured it out by then, another conversation wasn't going to change anything. Some people learn from words. Some people only learn from consequences. My family needed consequences, and I needed freedom. There are things I want you to understand if you're listening to this story and seeing yourself in it. If you're the responsible one in your family, if you're the one everyone leans on but no one thinks about, if you're exhausted from giving and never receiving, first, your family's comfort is not worth your suffering.